being a technician is more than just about fixing a machine. It's about providing solutions for people who need these machines to do their business.
Right.
So that's where things really kind of changed for me. We all started from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, none of us came out being rock star technicians. We were all, know nothings. We all started knowing nothing.
Right.
We all cut our teeth somewhere to become the technicians we are today.
Welcome to IronCast, brought to you by GT&E. I'm your host, Jason Gillhoolley. In this podcast, we talk all things iron. Whether you're in the dirt, trees, or pavement, it's about real people, their stories, and real conversation. Insight to what's happening in the construction industry and everything in between. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to get things fired up and ready to go. IronCast podcast with Jay Cole recording. Jay, welcome to IronCast.
Thanks for having me on, Jason.
Oh man, I'm so good to have you here.
Yeah.
So obviously you're a John Deere certified trainer. So you've been with the company, about 12 years?
Yep.
Almost coming up next month, 12 years. Obviously it was plaster equipment company, now GT&E. So that's kind of impressive, a 12-year career. When did you become a John Deere certified trainer?
I became a CDI March of 2023.
CDI. So that's something interesting too. How many acronyms do you think John Deere has?
Enough that they have the DLA or DAL, the DAL.
The DAL. Is that on the DL?
No, it's
out there.
It's out there.
So it's not on the DL, the DLA, or is it the DAL?
It's the DAL, the Deere acronym list.
Oh, it's an acronym.
Yeah, they have an acronym list for all their acronyms.
Excellent. That's like acronym inception.
Yeah.
Almost. You have an acronym for your acronym list.
Mm-hmm.
That blew my mind. Yeah. So you and I, we kind of go back about the same time. I started just a little bit after you with John Deere.
Yep.
But I'm interested, Jay, what led you to John Deere? Where did all this start? Like what was the thing that led you to be like, I want to work at a John Deere dealership?
Oh, I'm the son of a 5th generation dairy farmer.
Wow.
And almost exclusively all the equipment was Deere, all Deere tractors. I grew up in a John Deere green and yellow themed bedroom as a kid, so heavily indoctrinated. And the vocational school, the VOTEC program I was in, the dealership called down and said, "Hey, do you have anybody that would be interested in working at a John Deere dealer?" And the teacher's like, "Yep, I got just the guy for you."
He already knew, huh?
Yeah.
And what school was that you went to?
York VOTEC.
York VOTEC.
Yep.
Awesome. So you're from the York area?
Yeah. I live in Spring Grove, grew up in Hanover.
Okay. So you've been there your whole life?
Yep.
Wow. All right. So you started basically like as an intern on a VOTEC program.
Yep.
So why don't you talk us through a little bit, like how did that whole process go? I mean, what did you start there doing?
Basically, I had started as a summer intern my junior year of high school. Came in, talked to the service manager at the time, and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, you got some, some technical background training." He's like, "But let's leverage you in a couple different places throughout the business, see if we can try and find a fit for you." So there was talk like, "Hey, we might put you in rental. You can do some rental things, or we'll put you in parts a little bit and put you in service." And the first day I showed up, I brought my toolbox with me. Like what you have for being 17 years old. It's not much, but like he's like, "Oh, you came prepared." He's like, "Well, we'll start you out in service," and I was in service and never left.
Wow. Okay. So you were in the shop working on equipment. What was some of the things that you did initially working in the shop?
Oh, a lot of pre-delivery inspections, services, some rent returns, and some smaller minor repairs, changing out breaker bits, street pads, small repairs like
entry level stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And that you said a PDI, like a pre-delivery inspection, that'd be on like a new machine. Correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Very nice. So that kind of did that get you familiar with the machines better?
Oh yeah, exactly. You're going through and checking every single point on that machine, checking all the fluids,
right?
Checking critical hardware, making sure all that's tight, making sure everything's set up in the monitor correctly.
Excellent. So you were working in the shop for a little while. About how long was that?
I was in the shop for almost 3 years.
Wow, 3 years. And then, okay, so from the shop, where did you move next?
Into the service truck.
They put you in a service truck.
Yep.
How old were you at that time?
I was 20 when I went in the service.
20 years old.
Yeah.
So what did that kind of look like? I mean, I know there's a lot of traveling. You go different places. Was there any like restrictions or anything being a 20-year-old in a service truck?
Yeah. Being a CDL, you're not allowed to leave the state till you're 21. So the first couple of months I was in the service truck, not allowed to leave the state of Pennsylvania. So
That was challenging, I bet.
Yeah, we had to get some creative scheduling going from time to time.
Did they have to put a booster seat in for you? I mean, you were that young now.
No.
That's funny. But so how long were you in the service truck then?
About 7 years.
Wow. And it's got to be interesting out on the road, right? I
Yeah.
know I'm out on the road too. We've kind of been out on the road around the same time. You were obviously out there working on equipment, me out there checking things and going to shops and all that. There's got to be some interesting story you might have. I know I have plenty, but I want to hear from you. Is there anything interesting out in the road or out there on job sites that just kind of stood out to you?
The first blast I was ever on is kind of memorable.
At a quarry?
Yeah, being at a quarry for your first blast. You go ahead and you sign in, and the whoever's working the scale house lady, hey, just to let you know, we're blasting at 12 o'clock, so like make sure you come back to the scale house. And you're like, oh man, I'm gonna like see something happen. And the quarry super will come get you. Hey, we're getting everybody together at the scale house. So it's kind of like it's weird. It's a little bit of a bonding moment. Everybody there at the quarry, everybody gets together and watches this explosion happen.
It brings all the people together.
Yeah, it
right?
brings everybody together.
A good explosion brings them together.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It really does.
Excellent. So you've been in the service truck for a while, but I'm interested here because actually when I heard that you were becoming a John Deere certified dealer instructor, I'm like, what is that? So maybe walk us through here and definitely go into it a little bit because it's very interesting to me. And I'm sure everybody out there would like to hear about it. What was that process like becoming a John Deere certified dealer instructor?
So the John Deere certified dealer instructor, that's actually a John Deere program. It's a program put out by Deere where they'll take someone, they see the potential to be an instructor, and they go ahead and certify them to do factory level training. And that enables us at the dealership to go ahead and have somebody that's able to provide that training on a dealership schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first thing that happened is we said we were interested in having a CDI, and I ended up having an interview with Mark Deach, who runs the training center for John Deere.
Oh, nice.
And the whole thing is it's not about, it's not about the skill set or that. It's about the passion.
Right.
Do you have the passion to teach? That's the big thing John Deere pushes for. Do you have that passion? Do you want to do the job?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, like training is something I can get very excited for.
What excites you about training?
What excites me about training? Preparing somebody to go ahead and fix something and giving them the confidence that they're going to go ahead and do a good job is what excites me. I find that very rewarding. Technicians might go out to a machine, there might only be one or two of them they see a year, but giving them a nugget of knowledge that they can go ahead and apply to a machine to get a customer back up and running is what excites me.
Any more, like dive deeper into that? Anything else, like with how about dealing with the guys that the guys that you're training and doing these classes and these, being around equipment, there's got to be some kind of bond when you're around somebody that long in a day and they're, working together with them. I mean, tell me about the relationships that you are forming we got a lot of technicians at GT&E, and it's spread across from, east side to west side of Pennsylvania. So you get out to all the stores, correct?
Yeah, every single location.
Every single location. Tell me about some of the relationships that you're building with all the technicians because of being their instructor.
Oh, that's like one of my favorite aspects of the job is getting to build a relationship with the technicians.
Yeah.
Seeing a new hire come in and they're a little unsure, or, you give them the Deere diagnostic software service advisor and they're really floundering or fumbling their way through it. And you take them and have them in a class and you develop their skill set, and to watch them go ahead and succeed, like do a great job, using that program to either find information or diagnose customer's machine.
Yeah.
It's great to see. And the thing is, it's not just about the new technicians either. There's a lot of older technicians that we bring back in for training.
Right.
Just for a refresher. But the other thing is I take a lot of what the more seasoned guys have to offer, and add it to the curriculum.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it's constantly building.
Yeah.
And growing.
Yeah. I was only in service for 10 years.
Right.
But there's technicians like John Schondelmeyer, Justin Frost, and Ryan Deck who've got decades of experience.
Right.
And they have value to add. So it's like, okay, like, guys, let's work together, figure out what we can add to the curriculum. What test bugs can we add? They'll funnel me legitimately failed parts that I can install on a machine for class.
So that they're actually contributing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know there's a saying out there, and I don't like it. I'm going to bring it up here because I don't like it. They say those that can't do, teach. Now, I know. I think the same thing. There might be physical reasons. I get that out there, where guys can't be, and they are the ones I think that saying is for. Like, they can't physically do it. But, you've been doing it. You were out there, or in the shop, you were out there on the road for 10 years. It's not like you just went to a class. You have some experience, but then to bring in all the rest of shared experience. I mean, you think there's guys that have been doing this 40 years.
Yeah.
And you add all those years up to funnel through you, that you get to, I mean, you're just a big sponge, right?
Yeah. Soaking
every
up
day, soaking it up.
Soaking up what I can and redistributing it.
Yeah.
Handing the knowledge back out.
So I'm curious too. Have you had any other jobs outside of working with Deere?
No, this was my first real career. I mean, I started when I was 17 years old. So
yeah, you didn't work at like a pizza shop or something.
I did. Yeah. When I was 14 and 15.
14.
Yeah.
Slinging pies, 14 and 15.
Yep.
Nice. That's interesting. Hey, I'm curious. Did I ever tell you about the time, I had a few jobs. I had 2 careers, this one, working in a dealership, and another one I worked in I actually came from the motorcycle industry, working power sports. And, but before that, did I ever tell you about the time that I worked at a women's clothing store?
No. What was that? Like something to, high school job or something like that?
No, actually it was like kind of, in between careers. I was actually, because of my experience, I was a diesel fitter.
A diesel fitter
at a women's clothing store.
You're going to have to explain this.
Yeah, I would, as the women would come by, I would hold the clothes up and I'd say diesel fitter.
Oh,
yeah. I forgot to warn you before you got on here. Dad jokes are to be expected.
Are they?
Yeah. Did you bring any?
Yeah, I got one for you.
Really? You came unknowingly prepared. That's great. What do you got? What
is a pirate's favorite letter?
Well, I mean, if I was guessing, which I totally am, I would say it's R.
It's actually the C.
The C.
The C.
Did you rehearse that last night unknowingly that we're going to get into this? Or is this
all night in front of the mirror, man?
Practicing the one dad joke. I'm going to bring it. Now that we got the dad jokes out of the way, we're back on. I really do think it's interesting, the shared experience that we just talked about, and how, to me, that's a value, especially at GT&E. It has definitely been a growing John Deere dealer here.
Mm-hmm.
What's some of the value you're seeing for GT&E having you as a John Deere certified dealer instructor?
One of the big advantages is if we bring a technician in that shows a lot of potential, we can accelerate their training path.
Wow.
We can set our own schedule for that. So, a technician that comes in, very bright, young man or woman comes in, they show serious potential. It's like, okay, we don't have to be tied to the factory's training schedule. We can accelerate this person. One of the other advantages is, since everything's all done in-house, I have a steady supply of real-world failed parts.
Nice.
So I can go ahead and install those failed parts on a machine for a class, and the technician's actually looking and diagnosing an actually broken machine. They're not out there looking for, a harness unplugged or just a relief that's
some kind of simulation type deal. This is real life, real problems.
Yeah.
Real scenarios that these guys are going to come in contact with out at the equipment.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other huge benefit we have of doing our own in-house training is we have an in-house support system. Brandon Urich, our technical communicator, he's the go-to guy for our technicians.
Right.
If any of our technicians need diagnostic assistance, they call Brandon. He's a phone call away.
Yeah.
And the thing is Brandon, he's the first one to find repeat failures and early emerging problems. So Brandon goes ahead and he's like, hey, we've seen a bunch of XYZ failures. We should probably work this into the training curriculum. Yeah,
right.
100%. We can involve that, integrate that into a training program easy.
Wow. This is it, to me, it almost seems like it's becoming its own organism of growing and just everybody working together.
Yeah.
As a unit here. And that's interesting. Do you get feedback from anybody else out in the dealer system here?
Yeah. Warranty is one of them. So we'll often see common failures through the warranty department. Technicians are finding, easy to detect failures, and we can work that into a class. Just give them a heads up, like, hey, this is a common failure point on these machines.
Right.
Or something, a procedural change from the warranty department will change on how, a work order's got to be filled out a specific way. We, as the training department, can go ahead and deploy that training.
Working through those internal processes, making it more seamless.
Yeah.
Nice. That's interesting too. And I was just thinking here, it seems like as this whole program of having you training our technicians, as it grows, it seems like it's connecting dots as well at the same time. You know what I mean? Like we're connecting warranty to other failed parts that we're finding trends of with like through Brandon, who's seeing this stuff on a bigger picture, where you have a technician maybe out in our Harmony store, which is out near Pittsburgh. And, maybe he saw one case, but then you have one of our other technicians out of Sellersville, a whole state apart, basically.
Yep.
And he goes out to one machine, but Brandon as the, kind of the connective tissue, so to speak, and you working with him, that just to me is a huge value.
Yeah.
That it's not just islands across the whole state.
Yeah. That way every technician doesn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And, it just saves downtime for the customer. Any way we can provide a better service for them, get that machine fixed, back up and running sooner is what it's all about.
Yeah. And it takes a team.
Yeah.
To do that. Was there like a single event that kind of stood out to you, maybe as your time in the shop or out in the road, that kind of showed that, wow, I got a customer up and running. This is a really good feeling.
I wouldn't say that there was like one eureka moment out on the road, but where things really started to click for me, when I was in the shop, Rogel had one of their, I think it was a 710C or a 710D in the shop.
Well, if it's a 710, I know it's Rogel. They got a handful of those at least.
Yeah. And we were there. I think we were resealing the backhoe control valve on the unit.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's not a huge job to go ahead. But in the middle of doing that job, their fleet manager, Marty, came in and just came to check in on the job.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this isn't like major surgery we're doing here to this backhoe, but it was important enough for Marty to come in and actually check up on the job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this job is more about, being a technician is more than just about fixing a machine. It's about providing solutions for people who need these machines to do their business.
Right.
So that's where things really kind of changed for me. It was like seeing Marty, walk through the shop. I was probably, 18 at the time, and he came walking through and just wanted to check up on it and see how things were going.
And I'm sure he's impressed. Like, hey, this 18-year-old kid is, well, not kid, you're an adult.
Yeah.
By the state, in this United States, you're considered an adult. But, he's probably thinking like, wow, this guy's getting it done.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling. Obviously, I started pretty young as myself. Obviously not in this particular industry, but, I had kind of a similar path. And I just remember being young and that drive to just learn more, understanding how things work just was my passion.
Yeah.
So tell me about like your drive and passion to figuring things out, like even the most challenging things and not giving up on that.
Yeah. Embracing curiosity was definitely something I attribute to my father.
Nice.
He was always out in the garage tinkering on stuff, an old John Deere 2-cylinder lawnmower, whatever have you. And, like 6-year-old kid, 7-year-old kid, hey, Dad, what's this do? What's this do? And he'd take the time to sit down and be like, yeah, this is a jet out of this carburetor. And this is the butterfly that, allows how much air goes in and out of the engine. And how, like, you have children, what it's like. Kids can go ahead, hey, dad, they got lots of questions. And he kind of embraced that kind of curiosity.
Right. And I'm sure that takes like a level of patience too, because there's obviously an age gap and you got to come down to that person's level. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're dealing, like you said before, you're dealing with seasoned technicians. I'm talking like twice our age kind of thing. Not my age, but maybe yours. But
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, there's guys that have been doing this for a very long time, all the way down to an entry level where you started.
Yeah.
So you get that gap, and it's like you have to get down to their level.
Yeah. I think we all need to remember we started somewhere.
Right.
We all started from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, none of us came out being rock star technicians. We were all, know nothings. We all started knowing nothing.
Right.
We all cut our teeth somewhere to become the technicians we are today.
That's it.
Yeah. So like, we got to be able to relate to that and, remember, hey, that's where we started. We got to, back this down.
Yeah. I always look at, you being an instructor and you actually telling our technicians, hey, this is how you do this, or this is the process. I think it's more than, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but it's got to be more than just here's how you put A into B and tighten C and take off D. It's more than that. I think it comes down to like the why. Like, why do we do it this way? Or why is this procedure laid out in a certain way? Because I've seen value in explaining the why to not just procedures, not just policies, not just telling somebody that this is how we do something, but actually the reason why we do it. Mm-hmm. How, as an instructor, do you incorporate that into your trainings?
With purpose. Everything a technician does, everything we work on as a technician has a purpose.
Right.
This valve failed on this machine. Well, what does this valve do? It serves a purpose. How does that work internally?
Yeah.
All those parts have a purpose. And I think that's the thing that's most technicians have in common. Mm-hmm. They're not curious about, what the specific thing is. They want to know its purpose and why it does what it does.
Right.
I think that's something that's pretty common across all technicians. So feeding that curiosity of what this component's purpose is what a lot of the training circulates around.
And that's interesting because it's almost like we're coming full circle back to what we started with. I mean, that's what led you, is having that drive to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that as an instructor, having that experience, even at as young as you're not young now, but having a decade worth of experience yourself and that drive, what your I'm going to call them students, but our technicians, what's driving them.
Yeah.
They want to know the why.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's just cool.
Yep. So one of the big things I believe in as a principal for teaching is a steel sharpens steel approach.
Wow.
We have technicians that are extremely passionate about their job and they're extremely intelligent.
Right.
And you and I, we both went to high school. Like, we had teachers there that they weren't bringing their A game every day.
Yeah.
And, I experienced that. I've had some instructors in a professional experience, like, you could tell they didn't want to be there. But those technicians, there are technicians that want high caliber training.
Yeah.
So I try and bring my A game every time. And that's why we incorporate things like working with Brandon to find out what our common failures are, working with other seasoned technicians. What are you guys seeing? Hey, can you get me some failed parts?
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can go ahead and provide the highest quality training available to provide the highest quality technician available.
Wow.
And it takes all of that.
Does. That's interesting. So Jay.
Yeah.
Whoever's going to be out there listening, they want to get to know you. So Jay, I'm interested in you. Tell me one thing outside of what we have been talking about that you can talk about for hours.
Vintage John Deere, not to sound cliche.
Well, I could see you eat and sleep John Deere, so I get that. So tell me a little bit about your vintage. Do you have a collection or something?
Me and my dad have a fair amount of pieces. So we have a John Deere 50 and a 62 cylinder. Got some vintage John Deere 140 lawn and garden tractors.
Nice.
Yeah. So
you're into vintage John Deere.
I guess it's vintage.
And I'm sure you have some hobbies or something else. I mean, is there anything off the wall that you're into?
I wouldn't say anything too off the wall. I have a Jeep. I'm into off-roading. I have my ham license. I'm into messing with like old vintage tube stuff. Do a fair amount of canning.
So you've already been on the air then.
Yeah, I've been on the air.
You're into tubes.
Yeah.
You're into ham.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's probably not a lot of people that are out there on the airwaves.
Oh, there's a ton of people out there.
Really?
Yeah. You're not going to find them, out in public. We're usually,
it's not something that like they're out there. They don't wear like a t-shirt that says I'm on ham radio.
No, there's a lot of them that wear a hat with their call sign on it though.
Really?
Yeah. I think PA also has call sign license plates too. Get your license plate customized.
I gotta look for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like, and I probably wouldn't even know what I'm looking at.
No,
but
it's all good.
Is there anything else? I mean, you just mentioned a whole bunch of other stuff. Is there anything else that you're into? Any other hobbies?
I make soap, dabble in a little soap making.
No, wait a sec. You make soap.
Yeah.
Out of all those other things, you're making soap. Now, is this like, I mean, I know there's got to be a process to that. And I did see the process on a movie called Fight Club.
Yeah.
No, it's not that kind of soap.
I'm making soap just like that.
No. So why don't you tell me a little bit, I mean, what's the process of making soap?
Soap making's pretty straightforward. We've been doing it since we were cavemen. All you need is some type of animal fat. I use beef tallow, but you can use pork lard. You can actually use any type of like what they call fats. So you can use like a canola oil, peanut oil, shea butter. You can even make soap out of goat milk.
You can make soap out. Oh, okay. Goat milk. Yeah, I think I've seen that out there. Other people making it.
Yep.
So you're into making soap. Is there another ingredient that you have to add?
It's just, beef tallow and lye. That's the majority of what my soap's made of.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. I mean, I know there's like different fragrance. You're just good old soap kind of guy? Or?
Oh, no. So I make, primarily what I do is what I make for me, my daily driver soap is oatmeal soap.
Oatmeal soap.
Yep. Yeah. You put, oatmeal in it, gives you nice, some grit in there with it. And
little grit.
Yeah.
I can dig it. What are you currently working on in training?
Working on training right now.
Yeah. What are you currently working on?
Oil scans.
Tell me about oil scans.
All right.
Where are we going here with this?
So an oil scan. So every service we do on a machine, we oil scan every single compartment on that machine. We take the oil scans, capture a little bit of oil, and we mail it off to an oil scan company. And then we get the results back, and they alert us, hey, is there any bearing material, contaminants, something else going on with your machine? And what I'm focusing on teaching is not only just the value of the oil scans, but the oil scans, they're not going to call it out for you what that contaminant is or what that, bearing material is. It's just going to come back, hey, this is high brass, this is high iron, things like that. And the training is focused on how do our technicians interpret those oil scan results, and how do they go ahead and diagnose the machine after they've been alerted of a failed oil scan.
So let's say like on an engine.
Yep.
Customer says, hey, it came back, there's a lot of aluminum.
Yep.
And if we know the metallurgy of, let's say, cam bearings, or, we know which bearings, let's say crank bearings, we're worried about the crank.
Yep.
We know maybe, hey, they're aluminum coated, but then there's brass.
Or like a leaded bearing.
Or
as well.
leaded, yep.
Yep. Yeah, you could start seeing something like that. Or a big one is getting silicon.
Okay, tell me about silicon.
So when your engine, most engines now have a crankcase breather on them,
Mm-hmm.
but if you remove the crankcase breather or there's something wrong with the crankcase ventilation system, you can start contaminating your engine oil with silica dust. The other thing too is if your engine's starting to be dusted, say there's a poor air seal somewhere on the intake system, you'll get particulates of silica in the engine oil
because the engine is inducing silica that's in the air.
Yep.
And we're only, and we can't even have that in our bodies, let alone have it in your engine.
Yep. So like us looking at those oil scans acts as a triage system for us to come out and reduce more downtime on your machine.
Okay. So you're working on training and going through these processes of knowing what metals and things to look for to help you're actually physically going with our technicians and teaching them how to,
not just the technicians, but the sales team
and the sales team.
Yep.
The CSAs.
No, our salesmen.
Your salesmen.
Yeah.
What are you teaching our salesmen?
The value of oil scanning. So when we sell a machine, we can also sell a PM package with that machine. But if the salesman doesn't understand the full value of what goes along with that PM package, such as us being able to triage a failure before it happens, the salesmen aren't going to see the value in upselling it. So if I can show them the value of upselling that, it will help push more PM plans.
Yeah.
And push more services and more technician.
Well, not just pushing it, but
yeah,
it's not like I'm not pushing this on you. It's more so
it's a value add.
This is something we do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you even know that we do it?
Yep.
And coming back to it, full circle, the why.
Yeah.
This is why we do oil samples.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, I think it's been quite a riveting conversation here today. We got to know a lot more about you as our John Deere certified dealer instructor, but also you as just Jay Cole.
Yeah.
All those awesome things that you're into, and all the things that you're doing moving forward. Your current future endeavor right now. We were talking about oil scans. We're talking about a lot of great things. I definitely am just honored to be on the GT&E team with you, especially, with us starting almost around the same time. We worked together. We've been out on job sites together. We've been in the shop together. We've been doing, customer visits together, going over machines, working with salesmen, even me and our parts guys as well. Just a great value having you on our team. But I really want to say this too. It's been a great value having you here on the IronCast, that we get to actually, highlight some of the great things that you do, and you just as a great person working here for GT&E. So Jay, I just want to say thank you for being on the IronCast and being part of this amazing adventure in the GT world and in the industry. So thank you, Jay, for being on.
Thank you, Jason. The feeling's mutual.
Excellent.
Appreciate being here.
You bet. Hey Hey, everybody. Wow, that was a riveting conversation with Jay. I think we really have a better understanding of the world of service technicians and why they're actually a vital bridge between companies and their customers, how our passion can and will enhance the training experience that we can actually provide others in our company. You see, through Jay, I think we got to see what it really looks like to feed into his team's curiosity, those that he's training, by explaining and also leaning into the why and the how it works. I know it was great diving inside the mind of a service technician trainer, in our case, a John Deere certified dealer instructor. Understanding a solutions mindset is actually a key part to success. I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did. So hey, thanks for listening to the IronCast, and I can't wait for our next episode. We're out.